So, the year is 2000, and in the 2000s, as far as gaming was concerned, anything went. There were monkeys and balls, there were all-out brawls. There were squirrels with guns and a guy with the runs.
Stay away from good-looking women when you're fighting, otherwise you'll get hit with diarrhea.
Anything you could think of was probably turned into a game in the early 2000s. Some of our favorite franchises were formed back then. While a handful carry on now, infinitely more franchises were lost back then. Some of them were cut off, and rightfully so, but I know of at least one franchise that could have used a reboot by now. Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future were released in 2000 and 2002. Now, Jet Set Radio was very simplistic in its approach as a game. As far as gameplay goes, you roll around on skates, collect spray cans, and run from the cops and mark your territory over other gangs that are doing the same thing in the city. You string together combos with a mix of tagging, grinding, and wall riding your way through each area of the city, all while a radio DJ narrates the story for you.
Jet Set Radio!
Gameplay is accompanied by a bouncy soundtrack that does an amazing job keeping the player's energy up, as well as serving as a reflection of the moments in-game. In my opinion, one of SEGA's best soundtracks. And if nothing else, Jet Set Radio is a fun, arcade-style experience that might take 3 hours to play through front to back. This game was very linear and relatively small scale, with the game's release being exclusive to the Dreamcast toward the end of its console life. It didn't get as much exposure as SEGA may have hoped for, but nonetheless, Jet Set Radio was far from a failure. Jet Set Radio Future, on the other hand, was not a sequel, but a reboot of Jet Set Radio. The core gameplay and story remained in place, but the shift from Dreamcast to Xbox allowed SEGA to expand the ideas from Jet Set Radio and flesh the game out immensely. What once was a game that seemed to be created because it was a fun idea turned into what felt like a passion project. The world opened up, the levels had layers, gameplay was faster but felt more fluid and responsive, unique and legit boss battles, many more cutscenes with fully voiced characters, more unlockables and collectibles. SEGA shifted Jet Set Radio Future into the fast-paced platforming type of game that we'd expect only from SEGA. And the game was a success. Future reached more players and helped SEGA become recognizable beyond their Sonic legacy. In the wake of Jet Set Radio Future's release, a cult following was cultivated that lives on
To this day!
Piggybacking off of Jet Set Radio Future's success, SEGA quickly started working on the sequel, right? Well, no. You see, between the release of Jet Set Radio and Jet Set Radio Future, SEGA went from a first-party company to a third-party company. Essentially, instead of creating and making games for themselves, they were making games for other companies. Jet Set Radio Future was actually the first in an 11-game contract that SEGA was in with Microsoft. The decision to go third-party is why you don't see SEGA consoles anymore. It's the reason Mario and Sonic were at the Olympic Games. The decision came with the funds to create games, but stripped away the freedom to create games at will. For one reason or another, SEGA was never allowed to follow up on Jet Set Radio. And so, in turn, the fans of the series were left in the dark for 21 years. And just before all was lost, in the 12th hour of fans' hopes and dreams on a random day in February of 2021, everyone who waited for Jet Set Radio to return was treated to this. Immediately, the 7-year-old in me that had been waiting for Jet Set's return was screaming like when Goku lost Krillin. I remember exactly where I was when I saw the trailer and felt pure bliss. It was almost unreal. A brand new Jet Set is on the way, faithful to the original art style, bikes, skateboards, parkour, and wait, what?
Who the fuck is that guy?
Now, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited for Bomb Rush Cyberfunk. But I'd also be lying if I said a part of me wasn't hurt when I found out SEGA had nothing to do with this game. It was so sweet to get what I always wanted with a pinch of bitter to not get it how I wanted. Either way, Bomb Rush was on the way, and I was ready. And this game did not disappoint. Whatever Jet Set Radio Future did to improve from Jet Set Radio is exactly what Bomb Rush did to improve from Jet Set Radio Future. Playing this game brought me back to that feeling of 2002. And the feeling of this game wasn't like a developer listening to what the players wanted. It was like a player who loved Jet Set Radio decided to do what SEGA shoulda did 10 minutes ago.
Give it to me. You can tell them I took it by force. Give it to me. and I'll do what you should have did 10 minutes ago.
To be able to take another game's concept and not just recreate it, but recreate it faithfully and improve on it was almost unheard of. Bomb Rush Cyberfunk dropped exactly when a new Jet Set Radio should have, and Team Reptile had the benefit of being so far removed from Jet Set Radio's releases that they were able to play to the nostalgia from old fans while appearing to be original to new fans. The Jet Set Radios were console exclusives where Bomb Rush could be played anywhere, so the exposure of Bomb Rush completely eclipsed that of Jet Set Radio. From a number of standpoints, Bomb Rush immediately became a bigger game than Jet Set Radio could have ever been. Team Reptile, understanding what the fans want, quickly got started on a sequel to Bomb Rush calling it Hyperfunk. And if this game is as successful as the first, that may as well be the nail in the coffin for SEGA and Jet Set. See, SEGA announced a proper Jet Set sequel back in 2023, but after Bomb Rush and just looking at what little there is about this new Jet Set, I'm not convinced that releasing a new Jet Set is worth it. Because if Jet Set does come back, it'll be fighting for its own spot in a world that very well may have moved on. Team Reptile successfully came in, took SEGA's whole flow,
Word for word, bar for bar.
and is not letting up with their newfound fans and success. SEGA waited too long. What could have been a great comeback for SEGA is now Team Reptile's victory lap. Jet Set Radio is now in the hands of Team Reptile. It's hard to say that it's too late, and competition is always a good thing. But SEGA's back is against the wall on the Jet Set front. They'd be risking a lot to attempt to come back, because let's just say it's not too late. SEGA still has a chance. It will be an uphill battle to reclaim their spot as the originators. And when SEGA has to answer to the demands of whoever's paying them, how do you convince that person this is a smart decision? I just don't know, and I just don't see it.